A gracious good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on Prime Flash on My Media Prime Television. I am Dolly Ngonde on the anchor. We begin this edition of the news on a sad note as the population of Ntanturu in Bamenda is still in shock after witnessing the killing of a bike rider named Rene plus the burning of 2 bikes yesterday morning. Early yesterday, sources say separatist fighters took hold of the quarter, stopping movements of people, vehicles and bikes. More information has it that the separatist fighters had ordered a lockdown and the people, on the other hand, were not respecting it. And in connection with the Prime Minister's visit to Bamenda, separatist fighter General Scatter has surrendered. The separatist kingpin, together with 12 other fighters, were presented to the PM during a rally yesterday in Bamenda. The fighters dropped their arms, heading to the PM's call for peace. He and 12 others were presented to the public at the Commercial Avenue by state authorities. And updates from the Prime Minister's visit in Bamenda have it that Prime Minister Dr. Joseph Dion-Gute Rada has announced the resumption of work on the Baba June Bamenda Road by the end of October. He made the announcement as he entered day 2 of his working visit to Bamenda. In the following reports, Kebi Nora tells us more.
On day 2 of the Prime Minister's working visit in the restive Northwest region, he reiterates his message of peace by flaunting a dove in the air symbolizing peace. Peace is priceless, and that is the greatest gift almost every Cameroonian longs for at this moment. Among the many dignitaries present to listen to the PM's message were women who turned out in their numbers with peace plants, brandishing placards with peace messages on them. Speaking at the Commercial Avenue Grandstand today, October 6, Dr. John Gute equally reassures the population that work on the Bamenda Babaju stretch of road will resume soonest. The Prime Minister declares that the next time he visits Bamenda, the road must have had a facelift.
The second thing I want to talk, I don't want to good news. Now for time I say immediately I go back for Ewane. I will convene the 3 companies where they get for do the Baba June Bamenda Road. We start work immediately. Because the people where they finance that road well back, they will put ban. Because of certain conditions, make that one go start. But just a few days ago, they don't remove that ban. So what will start this month in Baba June Bamenda Road?
It should be recalled that the Prime Minister arrived to the Northwest region early on Tuesday, October 5, and was received by administrators and traditional authorities at Matazem. After pleasantries and a welcome speech from the traditional authorities, Chief Dr. Dion Gute took the floor to deliver his speech when gunshots were heard from the nearby bushes. The security forces, however, called for all to remain calm and not panic. The situation was brought under control, and the PM told the crowd he was there on a peace mission, stressing that it is time for the suffering to end. Dr. Dion is expected to spend over 4 days in the Northwest region, where he is scheduled to meet with delegations from the various regions to discuss on the implementations of the recommendations of the major national dialogue. It should be noted that his visit comes just barely 2 weeks after he was in Boya for the same reason. Cameroonians simply want peace and a return to normalcy in the restive regions, which have been rocked by violence and bloodshed over 4 years and still counting.
That was Kebi Nora on that report. We now talk something of national interest as we announce the 2021 edition of the Chantal Biya International Cycling Tour, which has kicked off in Bangote, West region of the country. 12 cyclists drawn from the Cameroonian National Cycling Team and SNH Velo Cycling Club are representing the nation at the tournament. In the following report, Sama Eileen tells us more.
Day 1 of the 21st edition of the competition kicked off 9 a.m. in Bagante, West region of Cameroon, with 56 cyclists taking part in the Grand Prix Chantal Biya, touring 9 cities for a distance of 116.1 kilometers. Cyclists from Slovakia, Burkina Faso, Mali, Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Cameroon, among others, are running for the Grand Prix. The first stage, Bagante to Bagante, took place today and covered two towns, Bagante and Bafia, involving a distance of 116.1 kilometers. The second stage of the tournament will run on Thursday, 7th October, from Bafia to Ntui, covering a distance of 130.4 kilometers. On Friday, the cyclists will race for the third stage, which is Yaoundé, Ebolowa, covering a distance of 167 kilometers. While Saturday, stage 4 of the competition will see the athletes covering a distance from Zoetele, Nkwang, and Meyomesala. The fifth and final stage of the competition is on Sunday, October 10th, from Sangmelima to Yaoundé, covering a distance of 166.2 kilometers. It is worth noting that the ceremony for the presentation of the teams took place on Tuesday, October 5, 2021 in Bagante, headquarters of the Ndé Division, chaired by Sports and Physical Education Minister Narcisse Mwele Kombi, and was attended by other dignitaries and characterized by pomp and splendor. For the record, it is the first time the West Region of Cameroon is hosting the International Chantabia Cycling Tour after the Center, East, South, and Littoral regions.
Summer Island reporting. Away from that, governors of the Lake Chad Basin have rounded up the third session of the Governors' Conference held in Yaoundé at the Yaoundé Conference Center. And for 2 days, the governors have discussed better ways to recover from the Boko Haram insurgents in that part of the country. In the following report, Fonquinta details us.
For 2 days, governors of the Lake Chad Basin deliberated on better ways to recover from Boko Haram atrocities as well as stabilize the region hit hard by Boko Haram attacks. From October 4th to October 5, 2021, the governors and stakeholders met at the Yaoundé Conference Center for the third meeting of the Lake Chad Basin Governors Conference. The 2-day forum, appointed by Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Jangote, was aimed at evaluating the implementation of resolutions arrived at during the second session held in Niger in 2019. It was equally an opportunity for stakeholders to improve regional strategy for the stabilization, recovery, and resilience of areas affected by Boko Haram atrocities in the Lake Chad Basin and examine the level of regional cooperation. While evaluating how far they've come, Prime Minister Dr. Joseph Jangote at the opening ceremony reiterated the need for combined efforts in order to meet the aspirations of the affected population. He further stated Cameroon's readiness to support any initiative aimed at restoring peace, development, and growth within the region. The 8 governors from 4 countries most affected by Boko Haram attacks who met in Yaoundé for 2 days include governors of the far north and north regions of Cameroon, governors of Adamawa, Bono and Yobe states in Nigeria, the governor of Difa region in Niger, and governor of Hedjel-Lamis province in Chad. For several years, Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger, and Chad have been struggling to handle the impact of Boko Haram atrocities in affected regions, ranging from mass abductions, looting, and killing.
I'll take you to the southwest region, where councillors at the Limbe 1 Council have held the first extraordinary session to deliberate on a recent circular from the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development. The circular sets orders for the council's board and the replacement of a vacancy at the Limbe Council. Kuma Honore tells us more from Limbe.
This is the first ever extraordinary session of the Limbe 1 Council under the stewardship of Mayor Eposimboye Florence, with 3 points on the agenda. The first point is in line with a circular letter from the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development instructing councillors to deliberate on the security and entertainment allowances of mayors and their deputies. The second point of the day's agenda is cognizant with Law Number 24 of the 28th of December 2019, subsection 3, stipulating that in case of the vacancy of a city councillor as a result of death or any other reason, the city council board or subdivisional council board shall fill the vacancy during a period of 2 months. It is within this framework that councillors of the Limbe 1 Council are here today to decide on who to replace Mayor Eposimboye Florence as councillor of the Limbe City Council, as her election as Mayor of Limbe 1 Council qualified her to become an executive of the Limbe City Council Board, better still, ex officio member. To this effect, Councillor Anjorin Besi was unanimously elected by all 24 councillors present for the session to replace Councillor Eposin Janjo Williams, who was earlier co-opted by the mayor to replace her in the board, but her attention was later drawn by the supervisory authorities to the provision of the law giving powers to councillors to elect a member to fill in the vacancy at the Limbe City Council.
There's a ministerial decision reducing allowances of the mayors and the deputies, and in other spheres it was increased. So actually, if you look at the allowances, there's no difference, because where they reduced, they increased in another side, so it all balances.
The last but not the least point on the agenda was the deliberation on the standing orders. Standing orders is an instrument to guide the operations of committees and the board as they go about their activities. The Limbe 1 Council has been operating without any standing order, and it was incumbent for the mayor to call the attention of her councillors to deliberate on a fixed budget to take care of the aforementioned headings.
Away from Cameroon, we now talk news making headlines on the African continent, where Burkina Faso's president, Roch Marc Christian, has reshuffled the country's military leadership amid rising terrorist attacks. In a statement read on state TV, the president named Colonel Marc Ouedraogo Guibert as the new head of army, while Colonel Major Sama Vimer was named the new deputy head of the army, while Colonel Ouedraogo Suleiman is the new head of the Air Force. Still in Africa, we now take you to South Africa, where events are being held in the country to mark the 90th birthday of the Nobel Peace Prize winner Desmond Tutu. He is expected to attend a service at the St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town, where he served as the country's first black archbishop from 1980. The Dalai Lama and Grace Marshall, the widow of the late President Nelson Mandela, are among those due to take part in an online lecture in his honor. And in related news, we now talk on Tigris matter, where the UN Security Council has been told that increasingly alarming accounts of hunger-related deaths are emerging from the Tigray region of Ethiopia. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said life-saving humanitarian efforts were being crippled. He's again appealed to the Ethiopian government to allow the unethical movement of desperately needed supplies to the region after nearly a year of conflict. And in Guinea, the military leader has named former civil servant Mohamed Bivogoni as prime minister to oversee transition to civilian rule following last month's coup. Mr. Bivogoni, 68 of age, is an expert in agricultural finance. He is related to Diallo Taylor, a former Guinean diplomat who served as the first secretary general of the Organization of Africa Unity. His appointment was announced recently in a decree read on public television. And out of the African continent, we now talk a U.S. federal judge who has ordered Texas to suspend the most restrictive abortion law in the U.S., which since September has banned most abortions in the nation's second most populous state. The order by the U.S. District Judge Robert Robert Pittman has made a halt as the Biden administration challenges its legality. The law, which prohibits women in Texas from obtaining an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy, was drafted and approved by the Republican politicians. And before we take leave of you on this edition of Prime Flash, let's talk what's happening in Pakistan. At least 20 people have been killed after an earthquake struck Pakistan's southern Balochistan province early today. Authorities say the death toll may increase and that many people were killed. Many who were killed were mostly women, and buildings collapsed on them, including children. The U.S. Geological Survey said it was a 5.9 magnitude quake that struck a shallow depth of 9 kilometers. With that, we've come to the end of Prime Flash this morning. Up next is In the House with Eileen Sama. The program was produced by Ewane, Nolinga. I am Dolly Ngonde. We keep you in the company of more interesting programs on My Media Prime Television.